Let me know when it catches.
It actually was unlikely, Luffy. He's gonna throw him to the wolves.
Yeah, I know. Straight into the fire, huh? Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. Bittersweet. Last regular season primetime game. Unless you include like Sundays, but Matt and I aren't on that. That's going to be a sick game. Vikings, Lions for all the marbles. And then you got two Saturday games. I forgot they did week 18 Saturday games. It's just a straight NFC North slate. It's all Matt, it's all four AFC North teams on Saturday.
They never used to do that.
I
I
know.
almost,
I went back and checked. I went back and looked and they started in like 2021 or something, 2020, like COVID year or something.
I guess that makes sense. I don't know how I've somehow missed this, but that's a pretty cool setup you have with the whole division playing. You can create some interesting narratives, I guess, for the slate itself. Not that
Yeah.
there's all that much to play for, but
And just the fact that we get another additional day of football. Like that's all I care about.
that's the bottom line, always for me. More
Yeah,
football is better.
exactly. And hey, you get one of your college type spreads, right? Ravens are 18-point favorites at home against the Browns on Saturday.
I can't wait to see who is on live before lock for that game. It'll probably break the chat's brain having to evaluate a game like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be fun. I'll tell you one more thing that's awesome. So the Bengals, that game, I don't know if you watched it on Saturday, the Bengals Broncos game, fantastic football game. It
I
was
had a quad box going on.
okay. It was awesome. Bo Nix to Marvin Mims, Bo Nix threw one of the sickest, most beautiful deep balls I've seen in a long time. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I think the guy's going to end up being pretty decent. But Joe Burrow against one of the best secondaries out there still goes and carves them up. T. Higgins, 3 touchdowns. Either way, awesome game. Broncos lose. Broncos need to beat the Chiefs this week, right? Andy Reid probably rests his starters. But the greatest part about all of this is they play on Sunday. The Bengals are still alive. They needed one of the Colts or Dolphins to lose. Okay. The Dolphins could lose this next game. They don't have, it looks like Tua is not going to play. If the Bengals, who play on Saturday, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're live and they're just at the mercy of whatever happens with the Broncos on Sunday. So that's a truly meaningful game right there.
I don't know what the rules are behind the flex policy for the NFL, but I remember in the past, they've flexed games where maybe a team that was playing ahead of time, and if they won or lost, that would affect the motivation for a team later in the day, and the NFL has flopped those game times. I don't know if they did that here, but generally they do a pretty good job of taking the motivation spots and maximizing it in week 18 when they do get the chance to, which is kind of what is happening here. It seems like unintentionally, but yeah, it's nice when this actually lines up and you get more meaningful games.
It's awesome. For what it's worth, that's why they've always done like no Monday night games on Wednesdays, or I'm sorry, on week 18. That's why they always have the games. Like, remember, you'd have 15 games between the 1 and 4 o'clock window. And then if there was a meaningful game, it would be Sunday night. I remember there being seasons where there wasn't a Sunday night game. So if you go and look at the week 18 schedule all the way up until yesterday, there's no game times defined. There's nothing on there. It's just here's the matchups, but you don't actually know when and what time they're playing. So they do exactly what you're saying. They set it up to where, like, you would never want the Bengals to play the Steelers on Sunday and the Broncos play on Saturday. That would suck, you
Yeah, it
know?
would ruin a game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I suppose if the Bengals lose, then the Broncos still get in anyway, even with a loss. But it's more fun this way with the Bengals knowing they have to win. I guess both teams would know they have to win, but it's fun, and I'm looking forward to it. Can I tell you one other crazy scenario that I think you'll appreciate? I think you guys will appreciate as well.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so the Eagles won yesterday, just routed the Cowboys, right? And the Giants inexplicably put up their best offensive performance since I can remember. They knocked the Colts out of playoff contention and subsequently knocked themselves out of the current standing for the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. here's where it gets crazy. Howie Roseman's an evil genius. Okay. I think we all know that. And I'm not just saying that as an Eagles fan. Anyone who follows football knows that Howie Roseman just knows how to do things. And I think Nick Sirianni's got a little piece of that in there as well, or at least he takes orders well. I don't think they're going to go and try and get Saquon to break the Dickerson record. I think they wanted him to get to 2,000. They got it there in 16 games, which is meaningful in my opinion, instead of 17. If the Eagles come out, Matt, and they just play all of their backups and the Giants happen to win that game, they fall out of like the 1 or 2 to potentially the 7th overall pick.
Yeah, and this is the problem when you don't have aligned incentives, which is kind of the beauty of the NFL because it makes teams try every single week, even late in the season, when hypothetically the Giants should want to get the number 1 overall pick, but they have a head coach who's on the hot seat, and if he doesn't win games, he's getting fired. But if he wins games and it looks decent, maybe they keep him around. We've seen this multiple times. It's happened to the Bears. The NFL is a uniquely structured league where tanking almost essentially can't happen, which is kind of beautiful too, because then in week 18, Malik Neighbors, and not that Drew Lock is any good, but like the players that are out there are going to be trying. It's such a short lifespan for coaches, for players. Contracts are structured in a non-guaranteed way where paychecks do matter week to week. You're just not incentivized to quit, unlike a lot of other major sports where, this is why the NFL is the best.
I quote tweeted Schefter yesterday when he said, that the Giants, fell out of the number 1 and eliminated the Colts. And my quote tweet was, "This is why making DFS/betting decisions based on the belief that a team is going to tank is senseless unless the players they put on the field suggest they aren't trying to win." And what I mean by that is exactly what you just said. If you put Neighbors out there, if you put the starters out there, you put Drew Lock out there, what incentive does Drew Lock have to play shitty football, right? What incentive do any of these guys? It drives me nuts. And I know most of you guys who watch this show are pretty much in line with what we were saying. Not to say you always should be, but in this case, I'm just right and Matt's just right. If you go into a spot being like, this team's going to tank, you got to do this. Or like I see it from a betting angle all the time. No, if all of their starters are playing, why would you assume that they're going in there to tank? It just doesn't make any sense. We saw who did it for Houston a couple of years ago to lose them the number 1 overall pick when he knew he was on his way out the door.
Lovie Smith.
Lovie Smith did the same. Why is he going to try and lose a football game? He knows he's going. Doesn't make any sense.
Brian Daboll might not go. And
he might not, but at the same time, what I'm saying, Matt, is trying to lose football games when you're playing your starters isn't as easy as it's not as easy as it seems.
It flat out doesn't happen. The only time starters truly rest is when you've already played well enough, not when you've played poorly enough.
Exactly. Who was the Lions coach again before Daboll? Matt? No.
The Giants coach?
Yeah.
Oh, was it that Judge guy before?
Matt Judge, right?
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge. Thank you. Yeah, Joe Judge. Joe Judge actually tried to tank. He was running it on 4th down from his own goal line late in the season.
It didn't matter for him. I don't know if he just checked out. Obviously, there's nuance to this, like personal motivations. If you know you're gone, you might not have an incentive to try, especially as a Belichick guy where everyone fell out of favor. I don't know. But yeah, it's like tanking just doesn't happen in the NFL.
No, it certainly doesn't. That was when they had like Jake Fromm in there, those type of guys. For real. Those quarterbacks that year towards the end were Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. Anyway,
it might be better than this year.
It might be, but we had the recap yesterday. There were some the Vikings Packers game was awesome. I don't care what anyone says. You're going to see some bad games in this year of football because way more televised than they were before. We've had some amazing football games this year. I don't want to hear anybody saying that this product stinks. You included, Matt. There's been some great football games this year, and I think we're going to get a bunch more.
I rarely say football stinks. So
I know you don't. I'm just saying in general. So many people like to complain.
I don't know what
So,
you'd be complaining about. It's fun to watch. I mean, this is a personal opinion. I think it's fun to watch backups and players battling for roster spots. That's why I like college bowl games when like freshmen and sophomores play. But even if it's not aesthetically pleasing, like you can appreciate good defense too. The Vikings Packers game was a phenomenal defensive game plan from Minnesota. Jordan Love ranks 34th out of 38 qualified quarterbacks in EPA against man coverage. And this generally isn't something that I look too much into, especially because it's small sample and it's nuanced. The Vikings have been a very heavy zone team all season long. And then looking back, some of this stuff just interests me. They upped their man coverage rate to like 85%. And a lot of their zone came in the late in the game when it was sort of out of the like competitiveness anyway. So seeing like Jordan Love fail in that situation and the changes that Minnesota made is fascinating to me. Even if you didn't think the game was exciting, it's like that stuff is very interesting.
it really is. And it'll be fun next week against the Lions. Let's get into it. Happy to have you guys with us. Hey, if you don't mind, atone for your sins this morning. Tap that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free to do so, and leave some comments down below. Remember, you ever want to listen in podcast form, we got you covered. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you want to listen, we got it. All right, Matt. The Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers. I need to set the table for you. The Lions don't, this game has zero implications for the Lions from a seeding perspective. Also, Dan Campbell is one of the few people that when he speaks, I listen. One of the few coaches that when he says something, I tend to take him at his word. And what he said about this game, they're 3.5-point favorites. Again, it doesn't matter if they win or lose. The Vikings won, which means it all comes down to next week. Winner gets the 1 seed home field advantage and the first round bye. Loser drops to the 5 seed, has to play on the road, which is incredible because it'll be with a 14-3 record. Here is what he said. I love this guy. He said, and I quote, "Yeah, I'll make this easy for everybody. That way all the critics can jump out and start attacking. But that way you don't have to debate them anymore. We're bringing everything we've got to this. How do you not love it? To this game, and we are playing. I don't care what it looks like and where it's at," referring to, what happened with Minnesota, "and who's this, who's that. We're going out to play and win this game on the West Coast. So there you go." End quote. I actually don't blame him. You may see this differently. You guys may see this differently. I don't blame him because the last thing I'd want to do is sleepwalk into a week 18 game against the Vikings. Like, players get injured. It is what it is. He wants to keep his guys on the up and up. Go for it. But from a DFS perspective, I expect these guys to be full go tonight.
I think they are too. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to sit, especially given when they found out this information. There's a couple things to evaluate here. Like one, they've been going through practice all week with the starters, assuming
Great
this game
point.
would be impactful. So now, like, what are they going to do? Show up to game day? None of these guys have even really practiced. Like, you have no sort of game plan, nothing in the works. And sure, they could do that, I guess, because the season, or I guess this game doesn't matter anyway. So if you scored 0 points, like, who cares? But then, like, how does that look for your locker room? How does that look for, like, the players you just threw out there? It's just, like, horrible culture building stuff. So no one would ever make that decision given you've had an entire game plan in practice and you're not going to throw it aside. Second, like, everyone's already hurt on their team. Like, who do you care about losing? And there's ways you can protect players without being stupid. And I know they lost Laporta last year, but I mean, you can come into this game plan could be something like, okay, we bring Gibbs down from 80% of the snaps to 50. Like they can do stuff where guys play and you just ease off them a little bit. Doesn't have to be like your crazy full go game plan, nor does it really have to be to win this game. But anyway, I don't think they're resting starters either. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys tailed yesterday, that was fun. We had Tampa Bay Bucks alt spread at minus 19.5. That you could see that one coming. But Matt, I actually like the Lions here, and the reason for that is if you thought the Niners were going to try and play spoiler, what's the point? This game doesn't even mean anything for Detroit from a standings perspective. But also, when I look at teams trying to play spoiler, I look at the Cardinals against the Rams on Saturday. I look at teams that came into the season with no playoff aspirations. This is a Niners team that is less than 1 year removed from losing the Super Bowl in overtime to the Chiefs. Like, this isn't the type of team that's like, yeah, we're going to go out there and give them hell. Maybe they will. Maybe they will, but I don't think I don't think this is marked on their calendar. Like, yeah, let's go and show them what we got. No, they've been ravaged by injuries. We know how good this team should have been. They weren't because they suffered a ton of injuries. These are the two most injured teams in football. But I want to start somewhere with you on this slate, and I think you're going to like it. If there was one spot in this game for the Lions where I could see maybe Campbell and Ben Johnson lightening their foot off the gas a little bit, it might be on Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield because we don't know when Montgomery's going to come back. What do you think about Craig Reynolds today?
I agree with you. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is like the one guy you might want to take foot off the gas with because Montgomery's injured. I know they're targeting like a deep playoff potential return for him. Craig Reynolds, I think, does make some sense for that, but I'm also semi-interested in like Sion Vaki, the guy they drafted on day 2 out of Utah, who played defense, and now they want him to play running back, which is weird. But maybe they try to get a look at him. He's a special teamer for this team. They had 8 or 4 running backs up in their last game, which is very abnormal too, but you could see them do that again to potentially take some work off Gibbs. I don't know that I think Reynolds is going to be the primary beneficiary. I mean, if I had to make a pick, it would be him, but I think it could be a little spread out. So I do agree that Gibbs maybe comes down a little bit in terms of his role, but I'm just not sure if Reynolds that is the main beneficiary.
That's fair. I tend to think it would be Reynolds because I don't know if Campbell and Johnson want to go too deep into the roster. Like, this still seems like a team to me that would just play it more traditionally, but a little bit less Gibbs. Now, for what it's worth, Gibbs still has a 94.5-yard rushing prop and like 122 or something rushing plus receiving. So by no means is this a guy that isn't expected to get a lot of work today, right? That's a lot. That's a big number. So, I look at this as a spot where I think I would probably take some chances on Craig Reynolds today. We don't have props on him yet. He had 4 for 18 last game on the ground. I don't know, Matt. I wouldn't be surprised to see his rushing prop come in around like 18 or something, but I might, depending on what we have him at in the Sims, I may give him a bit of a manual boost here later in the day. What about Gibbs? This guy's minus 290 to score in some spots on sportsbooks today.
Yeah, I mean, there's your motivation conversation right there. Places that are taking action on the game. This guy is a near lock to score a touchdown. He looks great. I agree with you on the Reynolds potential boost, depending on the role and projection where this comes. It's going to be volatile based on the motivation. I could even see doing the same thing with Vaki, just trying to spread it out a little bit between them. It's not like Reynolds has been significantly ahead of Vaki. Reynolds has played 20 snaps in the last 5 games. Vaki has played 16. So it's just like right there for both of these guys. And honestly, like, people might assume Craig Reynolds is the clear backup. I don't think that's the case. But with Gibbs, he's very hard to fade given the role. Even if you think it's depressed, they're still favored in the game. He operates in every single facet. He is explosive. You do have some alternatives, which I think is really just the main talking point against him. If you think he comes in a little limited, like, there are a lot of studs on this slate. But if you're dinging Gibbs for being maybe somewhat limited, it's hard not to ding the other Lions. So this is very nuanced. Right now, he's my most exposed captain. And I assume we're just following everything that the sports books and public is telling us. Like, he's going to play and it appears close to full. And if he's at that, he's probably the best captain on the board.
Dale asked, thinking about getting the Sims tools. What are the best videos to watch on how to learn? Oh, thanks, Jake. Yeah. Jake mentioned if you went into the YouTube search bar and typed in like Stokastic DFS Sims, you'd get all of the tutorials. How do you, yeah, all of them are right there. Or if you just go into the YouTube page, we have them on our site too, on Stokastic. But if you went into playlists and then you'll see the learn playlist. Oh no, actually there's a whole how to use DFS Sims. Perfect. Yeah, with all of those on the playlist, that'll get you up to speed real quick. And you can do it for each individual sport, for the single lineup sim. Greg did an amazing job with all of these sims. So if you're ever interested in checking it out, that's the place to go. Hell, when we first launched these sims, were you going to say something, Jordan? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. If you were to, when we first launched these, I went through and watched all of the videos that he did with, Steve Buzzard and such, and it was really helpful for me as well. Not hard to learn either. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Gibbs going to be tough to get away from that. I have a lot at captain, my most exposed captain. Without Montgomery, even if I'm right and Reynolds does get some work, Gibbs is still just a clear feature back there. You know, this is a guy last week that even in a blowout win, still got God, what did he have? Let me pull it up.
A
Even in a
productive
blowout,
day.
what's that?
He had a productive day.
Yeah, 69% of snaps, but you know, that was a bit of a blowout there. And you know, he still touched the ball how many times? 28 total looks, which is just wild. So then if you think, how do you pronounce his name? Vakai?
Sion Vaki.
It's Vaki. Okay. Um, that's why you're here, for these guys that I've never thought about.
He played safety at Utah.
Yeah, again, oh really?
Yes. He
Okay.
was one of these guys where when they had a lot of injuries, he would get like a carry or two here and there for Utah because he was probably the best athlete on the team. But he was not a full-time running back. He probably didn't even have like 50 carries in college.
What round was he drafted?
Third, I believe.
Oh wow. Okay. Do you think there's any viability with him today?
Yeah, I mean, he's played 4 fewer snaps than Craig Reynolds over the last 5 weeks. I don't know if that's just garbage time or what it is. He was a 4th-round pick. I'll correct myself there. But still, I mean, he was drafted ahead of like Audric Estime and stuff. And Craig Reynolds is honestly, he's probably just there because he knows the playbook. And when you put him out there, he's not like fumbling or giving up sacks, but he's about as I don't know, he's basically just like a guy. So I don't know. Maybe they do use Vaki a little bit. Who knows? I'm only interested because the snaps aren't different and people seem to think they are.
Lee Price said Reynolds plus 650 currently to score a touchdown. Not very inspiring. Yeah, I bet that. I sprinkled a little bit on
You're
Craig.
really good at getting closing line value. So I would imagine that gets like maybe down to 600, 550.
I'm thinking 550.
Yeah.
Closing line value on touchdowns though is tricky. Like it's not, you know, they're all one-sided bets. So like you could get
Well,
closing
it's
line.
like betting a goal in hockey or something. It's still an event that's not likely to occur,
Right.
but you got it at odds that
Sure.
suggests it's less likely to occur than it actually is.
What are you drinking?
Coffee?
Hold that up. Is that iced coffee?
Yeah.
Black?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
What did you think it was? Wine?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it was like iced tea or cranberry juice. It doesn't look like, I don't know, maybe you make your coffee not very strong.
I'm playing around with it. This
Hold
is
it-
new. I got this for Christmas.
Hold it
So
up
I
again.
don't truthfully know what I'm doing.
Hold it up again. Other side, because your green screen's in the way. There you go, right there. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't it's like has a more lighter hint.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah, 1 cup of black coffee in the morning. That's my thing. Wow,
Wow,
mug.
you're very rigid.
Well, you know why? Because it's funny because I have a storied history of illicit drug use. And not to say I'm proud of it, but the point I'm making is all of that affected me in wonderful ways outside of the impact it had on my life. But like overall, you know, how it made me feel. If I drink coffee in the afternoon, I don't like it. I don't like it, man. It doesn't make me feel good. Like it makes me, I don't know, I get not only the jitters, I don't feel good. If I drink it in the morning, makes me feel great. 1 cup, no crash, I feel good. But if I drink it later in the day, it just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, you have a good approach then. You're not supposed to drink more of it if it makes you feel bad.
Right. You just do what your body tells you.
Yeah.
Now, are you a throughout the day coffee drinker?
I cut it off at noon at the latest.
And you're straight black coffee, nothing in it?
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Once you go there, it's tough to go back.
Yeah, there's no reason to put anything in it.
So how many ounces of coffee would you say that you consume by noon daily?
I get caffeine from a number of sources, and it's probably too much, probably like 800 milligrams.
Yeah, I mean, that's not nothing. What are your different sources?
Right now, I drink a pre-workout because I've been lifting in the morning, which isn't
Which
my preferred time to lift, but I've been having to
which
do it for
pre-workout do you use?
it's the gym stuff, the JYM.
And what is that, like 300?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had those. I would do half a scoop. 300 put me in a bad spot.
Yeah, I remember doing it for the first time. If you're not used to it, you have to get the tolerance up.
Does your body start to tingle? Did it when you first started?
It did. Now it
Yeah.
doesn't.
So you do 300 and then after your workout, come sit down, pour a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and do that throughout the morning.
Okay. So yeah, 800. That's not,
That's a
hey,
guess. I don't like measure the coffee.
give or take.
Yeah.
All right. Should we actually let me flip to the other side of running backs? We'll kind of go by position here. Um, I don't know. I was actually, because I was doing a betting video and I grabbed the under on a Garendo rushing prop this morning. I, I feel weird about this Garendo spot. You're talking about a guy that's been playing through a foot sprain and then popped up again on the injury reports. Easy for me to say, with another ailment, had a hammy, and now he's off the injury report, which is good. He's clearly, when they use him, the top guy, but I have some reservations here. You're the one that pointed out to me last week the guy's always hurt, number one, when they were facing the Rams. But also, they have two regular starters on the offensive line. They have multiple backup offensive linemen who have already been ruled out for this game. I'm not saying Garendo can't have a nice game, but man, there are some, how do I say, red flags popping up for me on this guy tonight.
The line is very interesting. If you think the Lions are playing this at full speed, I mean, I personally like them. I'm not a big NFL bettor, but there's a lot of red flags in general. But it's like a very injured Lions front seven against a very injured offensive line. I think generally in those cases, the D line is easier to replace than the O line. And Garendo being injured himself doesn't help. So you immediately come into this with an uncertain projection. I still think he's going to handle most of the work. Efficiency is a different story, but they kind of just cycle in and out RB1s. And last game, it was Patrick Taylor at 80% of the snaps. He was at 6% the week prior. So I clearly don't think they have any sort of commitment to him. As long as Garendo can stay upright, he should handle most of the snaps here, with Taylor getting like maybe one or two here and there. So because of that, he's going to be somebody that we want to play at least to some degree. I don't really think I want to play him at captain because of the lines you talked about, the line injuries, and then I guess the game line itself. It's a very risky play, but you don't find very many workloads that are this secure.
You're right. See, I needed you to talk me through it a little bit. Now, I still don't love him. Like, there were other spots where I would love Isaac Garendo. And look, outside of one game against the Bills, and the Bills were coming off a loss to the Rams in that crazy game, you knew that they were going to come into Detroit. You just knew that was going to happen, right? At least you had a good feel. I liked the Buffalo Bills in that game. Josh Allen, just a great spot. Outside of that game where they carved up the Lions defense, this Lions team has really been impressive, Matt, with all the injuries. Like, they've still stood up. They're still getting pressure. I think this could be a long day for this O-line for the Niners. So should be interesting. You're right, though. He's still going to be viable, but I actually didn't get that much Garendo in the Sims. Maybe that changes, but normally I'd get a lot more than I do. And I ran this a little while ago. I don't know if we've done an update since I last ran, but I only got 20% Garendo at flex.
I ran it for the flagship style stuff. It came in at 25% flex, which isn't vastly different than our ownership. We have him slightly more owned than that. And a lot of times, unless I have like a real stand where I think for one reason or another, the workload, in these uncertain workload situations, I'm talking. This is uncertain, but I don't have like a good feel because it's largely just injury based and how Grendo's feeling. If you did, I could see boosting him one way or de-boosting him if you think he's less healthy. But when we have some situations like this that are uncertain and I don't have a strong take, a lot of times I just try to come in with the field.
Yeah.
I don't want it to bury me if it ends up on one of the tail outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's the way to play Garendo today. Definitely. And then, like you said, do we worry that, I'm not even putting much stock in any of the limited opportunities and stuff like that. Because even if you decided to play it this way, this is the kind of the way the lens I'm viewing it through. Matt, even if we decided to play it like, okay, maybe Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams and these guys and Laporta play less snaps than they usually do, but they play a lot, just not as much. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna play Tom Kennedy? Right? Like, are you gonna our CEO, also the preseason king, Tom Kennedy? Are you gonna play Allen Robinson? Right? Like, I guess what I'm saying is if that's your read on this game, then how is it actionable? And the only actionable way would be either overload on the Niners, but they have their own issues. Like, this team truly has their own issues. And Detroit, as you astutely pointed out, Detroit can't even afford to start playing backup defensive players. They're already all playing. So what's how is it even actionable if you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to play it like this. Campbell, lets off the gas a little bit and these guys play fewer snaps. So what are you going to jam Allen Robinson and Tom Kennedy? I don't know what the answer is.
I mean, so with the motivation stuff, if you think there's some sort of limitation, the real answer is just to play more 49ers. The biggest, you can go back to preseason if you want like an example of this. Those of you that play preseason will know, like, the biggest enemy to preseason DFS is timeshares. You want guys on the field more. So if Gibbs is limited and he plays like 75% of the snaps, and then you have a boost to Vaki and Reynolds, those guys aren't expensive, but they're not $200. Like, they still have to do something. Now, like a Tom Kennedy, maybe he could literally get a catch and be fine. He is $200. But generally, this just kind of muddies everything. On San Francisco, you still have I guess the studs you would call them, playing the whole game, hypothetically. So if anything, it would just make me more interested in the 49ers. But again, I don't think this happens. And one other thing, too, that we didn't talk about with the motivation stuff, how do we even know that Ben Johnson doesn't want to test some things out for the playoffs? These guys are constantly innovating, developing new game plans and trying new things throughout the season. Like, we have no idea if they want to like get a look at a certain package or try something out against the 49ers. There's things you don't know that are going to affect this game, which I think would point towards these guys playing more than you think. So again, I'm treating this mostly as a Detroit full go, maybe with the exception of Gibbs, and I'm not even sure that matters because his props are crazy anyway. But yeah, I don't know how you could come into this reasonably projecting anything more than maybe a couple snaps removed.
Last year, Dan Campbell needed in week 18. They had basically locked up the 3 seed, right? They needed to get a win. They needed the Cowboys to lose, and that was a game against a really bad Commanders team at that point. And they needed the Eagles to lose. The Eagles did lose, but they were 10-point favorites. Either way, Dan Campbell still played all of his starters. And you remember this, right? Because remember Laporta got hurt. Yep. Laporta got hurt. He faced a lot of criticism. The snap counts in that game, where, again, I remember the odds being like 95% to finish with the 3 seed. St. Brown played 94%. Reynolds, who was a starter because Williams was a starter, but not to the degree he is now. Reynolds played 92. Williams played 72%. And Laporta played his typical 88% while Goff played 100% of snaps. Maybe it's not apples to apples, Matt, because they still had some mobility, some possible movement there, but it was highly unlikely. And the large majority of coaches wouldn't have played their starters there. Campbell did. That's enough for me to say I think we know what's going to happen.
I agree. You also have that to fall back on. The only thing you could poke a hole in is that approach got Laporta hurt, but luckily it wasn't severe enough for Laporta to miss any time.
Yeah, and also players can get hurt all the time. I don't know. I have a weird, like, everyone's already hurt. Everyone's already hurt. What are you going to do? You bubble wrap these guys and then you go into the week 18 and then 3 of them get hurt in the first quarter. What are you going to do?
You could seriously argue that these guys need reps on defense.
I was just going to say, yes. You're absolutely, look at the preseason. Like, I don't know. you might be right that these guys should be on the field.
I
Totally
think,
anecdotal.
yeah.
I don't know, but I
The
think we
best
got,
proxy you have is looking at the markets.
yep.
Lions still favored, props still absurd. That is the best proxy you have. If you think you know better, I mean, who am I to say otherwise? I certainly don't know, but that's a pretty damn good proxy. They're taking thousands of dollars of action on it.
So I
Tens
still
of
like,
thousands, hundreds of thousands.
oh yeah, I still like Laporta at his price point. He's been getting more work in the red zone. Also, his target share has increased lately as well. Granted, they've been in a few games where they've had to throw a little bit more, but yeah, the only one at flex that I'm not getting a ton of is St. Brown, but I have around 10% at captain. On the other side, though, if you, I'm looking at a lot of these spots, and George Kittle's my second highest exposed captain right now. Jawan Jennings is my fourth highest, and Brock Purdy's sandwiched in between those guys. At flex, George Kittle is my second highest exposed player overall on this slate.
Aside from the motivation stuff, I think it does make some sense to get to the 49ers studs because it's more concentrated. It's basically Kittle, Jennings, and I guess Debo. Debo requires a little bit of finessing in the projection, but you could still certainly play him. That's more concentrated than Detroit, who's extremely spread. And I know we've removed Montgomery, but a lot of that has just gone over to Gibbs. The passing game is still very spread out. I think we had a Detroit showdown recently where we talked about Amon-Ra's target share being down this year. And that comes with the emergence of Jameson Williams, Laporta in his second year, and Gibbs being an awesome pass catcher. Outside of the 18 target game in their second most recent contest, he's been below 10 targets in 4 of the last 5. So I think that's why you don't get as much Amon-Ra St. Brown at the top and why you might be getting a little more 49ers. It's just slightly more concentrated over there.
My trigger in chat says, I don't think these guys understand Coach Campbell. Well, please enlighten me, sir.
I mean, you mean he might agree with us.
I think he does, which is why I think, I don't know, may have just tuned in.
We all think the Lions guys play.
Yeah, I think they play a lot. St. Brown, Jameson Williams, you have, let's see, above the dead zone. I'm not including Patrick Taylor here. Above the dead zone, which is, we've named it the dead zone. It's the quarterback range where you've got, 5 backup quarterbacks, obviously unplayable, right? They're just there in case something happens at that price point. Above that 6K zone, they're all 6K flat, right? You have, and not including Taylor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 9 guys at $7,600 and higher. So how tough is it to build lineups on a slate like this? You're going to have to make concessions. Like there's just no way you can get everyone you want when Gibbs and St. Brown are, 11-6 and 10-6 respectively at flex. Goff and Purdy are in the 9K range. Kittle's 9K now. Garendo and Jameson are in the 8K range. I mean, Jawan Jennings at this point looks like one of the best him and Debo look like 2 of the best values you're going to get.
Absolutely. I'm finding myself with one value guy, and I'm going to say that's Pearsall or cheaper. You could play Vaki, you could play Reynolds. I'm not going to specify for the builds. Then you can play Laporta as your mid-price guy. You could insert a defense or something. Then you can pretty comfortably play 4 of those studs, depending on how you configure it. If you play like the most expensive captain, maybe it would be 3. But what I'm finding is it's pretty easy to play 4 of the guys that you're talking about above that, 7,600 mark you said?
Yep.
Yeah, it's easy to play 4 of them as long as you're playing a value guy, whether it's Pearsall or someone else, and Laporta, someone in that range. So I think most lineups will have 4 of them.
If you had to rank your pass catchers for the San Francisco 49ers today, do you have kind of a clear order here? I think I do, actually.
I think I do too, and I think it's honestly Kittle number 1.
I think it's Kittle, Jennings, Debo for me.
I'm adjusting for price. The Jennings Debo is where I think my bias is still not
Towards
fully
Debo?
in check yet. Yes. It's just knowing how talented Debo has been throughout his career. and Jennings essentially operating as a wide receiver 4. Like the emergence of Jennings never really made sense to me in my brain because it came at the expense of Debo. And I always thought Debo might be playing through an injury. He goes on Twitter, says he's not, gets community noted. I don't know what the deal is, but it was nice to see that game last week where he actually kind of looked like himself. They're almost the exact same price, so this is very sensitive. Projections are probably going to just straight up give you Jennings because he's been so much better all season, but I don't have a clear read between these two guys.
I think that's a kind of fair assessment on it. I would say though that from a consistency standpoint, Jennings has definitely been more consistently involved,
No doubt.
you know, especially since Ayuk went down.
Aside from last game, you have to, I mean, you basically have to go back to Ayuk's presence on the field to find a game where Debo out-targeted Jennings.
Yep.
They've either been tied or Jennings has been ahead of Debo in targets since like week 5.
What was the last week?
Game that Jennings missed?
What was the last week Ayuk played?
He played in week 7.
He did? Mm-hmm. Okay, so week 7 was the last game he played. Let's see here. I'm just pulling something up. So we'll go weeks 8 to week 16.
Debo has only out-targeted Juwan Jennings 3 times this year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, that's kind of like, that's
3 times, yeah.
It took me a while to get there, but at the same time, I go, well, what am I supposed to do? Eventually, I'm just going to have to throw my hands up and say, I guess Jennings is the guy, unless they decide to change it this late in the year, despite Jennings getting all of that opportunity. It's hard to say. All right, so weeks 8 through 16, Jennings has a 29% target share, 37% of team air yards, while Debo's at 21% targets, 15% air yards. Not a big air yards guy, but Kittle 21% target share, but that's coming up. Also, just some really high value targets. You know what sucks about Debo is that they have tried to do the you know where I'm going with this.
Yes,
they've tried so hard to fit the square peg in the round hole with Debo Samuel in the run game. It simply hasn't worked. He's averaging 3 yards per attempt on 39 attempts this year. It hasn't worked no matter what they've tried to do.
I don't know why he's so bad, but it's true. I mean, and 2 of those games where Jennings out-targeted, or excuse me, where Debo out-targeted Jennings were weeks 1 and 2. And then they had this significant role change, and it hasn't really been different so far. I guess for the purposes of lineups, what are you comfortable having the difference in your portfolio be? Because when I ran it unencumbered, no boost, I ended up with 32% Jennings flex, 20% Debo flex, about the same distribution at captain, obviously single digits for them both, but more Jennings than Debo there as well. I might smooth it between them, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to change anything.
39% Jennings at flex, 21% Debo, 9% Jennings captain, 3% Debo captain. So
that seems about right.
Yeah, I might be all right smoothing it out a little bit, but you know what it comes down to? Debo's not cheaper than they're the same price.
Yes. I mean, the whole thing would be, you think there's maybe some sort of projection boost you can give Debo, whether it's health or just they want him more involved, which I think is a low chance, but it's like there are players on slates like DeAndre Hopkins where I know coming in, like there's no chance I'm boosting him one way or the other. He just does his thing. It's not changing. Then there's players like Debo where it's like he has a role we expected. It hasn't been that. And there's a little bit of uncertainty. Then there's like full uncertainty, kind of like, I don't know, like a backup running back playing and you just don't know who's going to get all the carries. This is somewhere in the middle where I'll debate if I'm going to boost this or not, but it's probably not going to happen.
Alpha OG hit us up in Discord. Said, Lavi, watching the stream currently, just wanted to say I managed to hit first along with a bunch of other people last night on prime time. Awesome, dude. And that was an overtime game too, Matt.
Nice shot, man. That's awesome.
All right, so we'll build a lineup. We'll do a few other things here. I just wanted to shout out, as I always do, got to shout out Portfolio EV. Uh, I got the best message the other day, Matt, on Twitter, and it was somebody that said this was it's like the day or two after Christmas, and he tweeted to me and goes, he goes, joined OddsShopper with minimal expectations, just because of and because of how much Laffy praised it. He's not exaggerating. I turned 1,000 on 3 books into almost 4,000 using only the EV betting with Portfolio EV. Easy decision to renew for me. This is in December that he started with this, right? Using the deal. Turned 1,000 into almost 4,000 with just Portfolio EV. I can't say enough about it. I truly can't. And, you know, nobody better than you from a math perspective at explaining like ROI and stuff like that. People see 7% ROI and stuff, and they're like, well, I could have, you know, thrown it in the S&P, but you don't get compounding ROI. You don't understand, you know, with compounding ROI, when you're reinvesting your bankroll every day, it's huge. Like I'm limited, so I can't invest my entire bankroll each day. These are my results just for the month of December. I don't know if you can see that. I guess it's not showing up. That's in our bet tracker. I guess you can't. $6,800 by just blindly using the mass entry tool. Not even originating plays. NHL, NBA. We still have what? January, February, March, 8. We have like 4 more months of those sports going simultaneously. I place every bet from my phone with the mass entry tool. I can't say more good things about this, Matt. And to see other people tweeting at us going, look, I tried it out. I was unsure. You know, it's my money on the line. And I'm placing bets that pop up in the tools where I don't have any say. I haven't seen a single person dissatisfied with the results they've gotten. It's just, you're the one that said it. You'd be crazy not to try it when you're just making money month over month.
Yeah, I'm happy people in the public are trying this out and having success with it, because I think you and I are both pretty reputable. We put our opinions on the line, and I hope that people trust us. We try to do a very good job cultivating that. I know you do too, but I could still see like someone coming in here thinking, who are these guys? Like, what do I care what they say? They're just throwing out ads. Now people in the public are coming out there and showing their results. You mentioned compounding interest just on a daily basis. A lot of the returns you're talking about for like the S&P stuff are on a yearly basis. You can turn this over every single day. The biggest thing for me is that it's easy. You mentioned doing it from your phone. There's no complex math out here. If guys like me and Ben Roza can figure this out, I guarantee you can.
It's true. Ben's like the most tech illiterate person on earth.
And that's the other thing too, is it's not hard. Like there might be some sort of barrier to entry. It's like, I don't want to do this complex betting across like all this stuff. Like one thing that our dev team does so well is make things easy, simple that you can understand, easy to do. I mean, how long did it take you to do this morning?
Dude, I have 50 bets in and I placed a bunch of them in bed before I got out of bed. I'm serious. I'm serious, man. It's
No,
great.
man, I'm laughing because like that's the kind of stuff that I do.
Yeah, I woke up to take a piss at 3:30 in the morning. And I'm so dumb. I always chug water before I go to bed. And I get back in bed. I was like, oh, let me see the score of the end of the game because I fell asleep. And I got 20 bets in at 3:40. And these books must look at my like transaction history and go, what is wrong with this guy?
They probably think you're like a drunk or something coming home from the bar.
Yeah. Just yeah, but you know what? I'm winning. So that's all that matters. Anyway, links in the description, guys. I tell you, you do whatever you want, but even if you're not a big into betting, it's just an awesome way to supplement everything. And it's helped me on a lot of bad DFS days as well. You'll see it down there. OddsShopper Portfolio EV. Check it out. I use everything from the app, but if you prefer to do it on desktop as well, go for it. And on desktop, you'll see tutorials. I did like 6 different tutorials, 10 minutes total. They're like 2 minutes a piece, a minute and a half. Will teach you everything you need to know to jump straight in the game. And if you ever have questions, my DMs on Twitter are always open, and I'm happy to help you guys out. All right. Who haven't we talked about yet that we should probably dig into before we build a lineup here?
I think we need to talk about Laporta and how much. I think I don't want to call him like a necessary evil because he's a very good player, But when I was building stuff this morning, so many of my lineups just landed on him naturally. And I
Yeah.
guess there's alternatives in kickers, defenses, but his price tag at 5,600, again, so many of my lineups were just like one value guy, whether it's Tim Patrick or Pearsall or someone cheaper, then Laporta, then four of the studs. So many of them just look like that. How much Laporta are you comfortable with?
Jerkwad said, I trust you enough to give you my sister's number. Well, what if you don't like your sister? But yeah, that's very nice of you. Send pictures. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, so Laporta right now, I have 38% at flex and 7% at captain. That's a lot. There's just slates where you and I have done. I mean, how many have we done this year of these? Like 40 now? 30? Well, probably what? 30. If you got, no, yeah, 17 weeks, two each week for the most part. So yeah, a lot. Well into the 30s. We've had a number of slates where no matter what we build, we kind of land on that weird, like mid to high 5K range for the last guy. And this feels like that type of slate as well, where Laporta just fits the puzzle.
That's how I think about it. I'm comfortable with having him around 40% in the flex and then some in the captain. I think it makes a lot of sense. The lineups where I don't will just largely be pivots to kickers and defenses in that range. The only other really interesting stuff up at the top I noticed in the portfolio was I came in pretty light to Jameson. At 8K, I like that. He's just so boomer bust because his volume is low. He's a terrifying fade, and I'll likely probably be like 15 to 20% of my lineups because like he could easily bury you. But at 8K, I think he's a little bit overpriced. So among the studs, he's my least favorite. Still, like the guy I would be most scared fading. And I think that's about it for little things I notice among the really expensive guys.
Who's your least favorite among the studs?
Jameson.
Okay. So would you put Garendo ahead of him?
Yes.
You would? All right. Jameson's tough because on showdown slates, this is your true make or break player.
Yes.
Just a yes. Like Jameson could have 5 targets and 3 for 130 and a touchdown.
He's a terrifying fade.
Terrifying.
He's so hard to project, though.
It's impossible to project this guy. Like if you're a betting man, just take Jameson to score a 50-yard touchdown or 50 yards or something. You could, I wonder how the reverse correlation would work on like Jameson, bet the alt, Jameson 40+ yard reception, and then Jameson under 3 receptions or under 3.5 receptions. That'd be a wild one.
There's not even like any trends to suggest he's getting more involved either. It's literally been the same thing all season long. Aside from 10 targets in week 2, somehow, he's at like 5 to 7 targets. If he catches just the nuclear bomb 80-yard touchdown, you need him. That happens like, I don't know, once every 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Jameson, yeah, once every 3 weeks. And when it happens, you just know he's gone. He's to the house. Jameson under 3.5 receptions. Jameson. Should we do to catch a 30-yard reception or should we do like an alt receiving yards just to see what it comes up at?
Oh, do an all one. Do like 45 or 50.
I can't because FanDuel doesn't have those. How about just an alt receiving yards? Like
Oh, like
80+?
120? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do 100. So that gets you to, oh my God. Dude, Jameson 100+ yards, under 3.5 receptions, plus 9,300.
That seems pretty long.
What if you went under 4.5 receptions and 100 yards? Just entertain me for a second here, Matt.
Of course. I mean, he's basically like a lock for 7 targets or 1 target, one way or the other, above or below.
Oh, I forgot FanDuel doesn't let you bet the alt under receptions. I mean, tell me he's not the perfect reverse correlation player.
No, he is. I agree with you.
I may sprinkle.
I don't
That's
hate
fun.
that.
That's fun. 3 for 101 and a score. Let's go. Has he done it this year? 4 for 124. No, he hasn't done it this year. Well,
He
today's
can
the
though.
he can. Yeah, he absolutely can. Just kickers. So usually this is one of these spots where I would anticipate getting a decent amount. Not the case today. Well, 38% Bates at flex, 22% Moody, 25% Niners, D, 22% Lions. That checks out. That's kind of standard for what we usually get here.
Yeah, it's maybe a little lower than normal, but it's not drastically different. I think some of that is just the presence of Laporta. And then I think the value stuff is pretty robust today.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
We've got Pearsall. He's on the field like every play. He doesn't do anything, but he doesn't need to at 3,600.
You got
Tim
Tim Patrick too. Yeah.
He's been surprisingly good for Detroit.
Mhm.
I
And
always
they
count this
target
guy
him.
out.
They target him in the end zone.
Dude, this guy is the most reliable player. I can't believe it. He comes out of Utah as a UDFA, immediately finds his way on the field, has two, not one, two significant injuries. And you're like, oh, this has got to cook his career. Bounces around a little bit. And then the second he's on the field with Detroit, he's doing stuff again. It's wild, man. I can't believe he's back healthy and actually playing well.
He's been impressive. He had a 2-touchdown game a few weeks ago.
He's the scrappiest guy in the NFL, maybe. I don't know how he does it. But he's a great value play. He's even at 4K. He's just with the Khalif Raymond injury, he's on the field so much. He had a 65% snap share in the last week, 81% the week before that. The only time you really see that deviate is dependent on 12 personnel stuff. Like he's really tied to Brock Wright snaps, which is wild. But Brock Wright's out there essentially to block. Like I don't have as much interest in Brock Wright as I do Tim Patrick himself, or I guess, some of the other guys. And
do you think Jamar Jefferson's going to be on the active roster?
Kinda. I don't know why they did it last week.
Is he? Let me see here. Because didn't he revert back?
A lot of times they do that though. Like
And then, yeah. And then I would assume he's going to be on. Would you play him? I think I would.
Jamar.
He had 3 carries and a target last game.
I think he's behind Vaki.
Maybe. I don't know. He's $400.
Why do they have 4 running backs up?
I have no clue.
They always are doing this.
I have no clue.
Vaki does play some special teams though.
I don't know. I have a little bit of Jefferson popping up for me in the Sims in my first Sims run.
He's cheaper than those guys. You have to watch that. That's like I think he plays, but I'm not 100% sure. That's a little late news special type situation.
Before we build a lineup, who's your favorite value? Because for me, I think even at his price, it's probably Tim Patrick.
Him or Pearsall by far. Maybe Pearsall just to save the extra money, but it's got to be Patrick. I mean, he has target counts of 1 in the last game, but 7 and 8 before that. Pearsall's like maxing out at 4.
There may also be an argument to make. Also, Peter said he got 58 bets in today. Swish said, what I do by 4:25 a.m., I got 10 bets already. Yeah. So, right. That's what I love to see. Where was I going with this? Oh, one thing you could potentially see is that San Francisco might actually look to get a young guy like Pearsall more opportunities to close out the season. That would actually make sense to me.
They should absolutely do that. He's done nothing this year. Not all his fault. He missed like the entire offseason. But I like him at his price.
So do I. This is the type where if he had 6 targets, it wouldn't actually surprise me. I mean, wasn't he a first round?
Yeah, he was the 31st pick, I believe, because Leggett was the last pick. Or was Leggett the 33rd pick?
Well, Chiefs would have been 32nd pick because they won the Super Bowl.
They could have traded it away. I don't remember
Oh,
clearly.
yeah, you're right. They could have. They definitely could have.
Let's see here. The 32nd pick was the Carolina Panthers, Xavier Legette. 31st was Ricky Pearsall, 49ers.
Okay, good memory. So I guess the Chiefs did trade it away.
Believe me, I can remember NFL draft stuff and then nothing that's actually important in my life.
Yeah, Kansas City traded it to Buffalo, who traded it to Carolina. All right. Oh, Chiefs, I forgot. Chiefs traded up to get Worthy at 28.
Yeah, what a run of receivers here. So you had Worthy at 28, then two non-skill players, 31 Pearsall, 32 Legette, 33 Keon Coleman, 34 Lad McConkey, 37 Jalen Polk, which was a little high. But
And also 23, Brian Thomas Jr.
I mean, that was just an absolute amazing pick.
Dude's
Me and Eric were, I don't know, messing around on Live Before Lock yesterday. Has there been one first rounder you would consider a bust already? I don't think so. Even the late ones, like Pearsall, you can't consider a bust. He hasn't been as good as some other ones. Any player.
I mean, Bowers, Dunze, Neighbor. No. I mean, Marvin Harrison, we already know is going to be good. Was he a disappointing this year? Because people want to draft this guy like 12th overall. But no. And Andy Reid's finally you knew it would take a little while for him to start using a rookie skill player. It always takes him a while.
There's players that got hurt, but I mean, even the like back of the first round defensive players, like Jared Verse is playing a ton for the Rams. Chop Robinson's been getting on the field for Miami. He is a sick Selly. I wish he would get traded to the Bears.
Tyler Mitchell's been better. Great for Dallas.
What's that?
Tyler Guyton for Dallas, late first round.
They've been forced to play him. But like Terrion Arnold's playing for Detroit. And maybe you could argue Darius Robinson for Arizona is the worst one.
How many games did he miss?
Darius Robinson?
Yeah,
no idea.
A lot. He missed a lot. He was on the IR for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing with a lot of these first rounders. Like McCarthy's been hurt. Some of them have been hurt.
All right.
Byron was hurt for a while for Seattle. Anyway, we're dicking around. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Bo Nix at 12. I mean, to me, that's just a fantastic pick because they're going to make the playoffs, Matt.
I mean, like, what quarterback are you disappointed in? Obviously, we can't include McCarthy, but
Caleb. But you'd also have to factor in the offensive line and coaching. No, seriously, if you reshuffled the deck and had to draft right now, of the 5 quarterbacks drafted, what, 6? I'm sorry, 6 with McCarthy, sure, eliminate him, drafted in the first round. Where are you taking Caleb Williams? Because you're probably taking Jaden Daniels first. I'm personally taking Nick second, Drake May third, and then maybe Caleb.
I think I would still put Drake May too. What he's done in that, his pressure rate is like 40%.
Oh, I know. I'm just a Bo Nix truther, so I like the guy.
I don't dislike Bo Nix. I mean, I had to do a complete 180 on him. What Brian Harsin and the Auburn coaching staff did to Bo Nix should have landed them in federal prison. And then going to Oregon completely redoes his career. I mean, he basically had the full Sam Darnold arc in college.
Crazy. It's crazy.
What Drake May is doing in New England is crazy too. He's throwing to UFL receivers with no O-line. But yeah, I mean, would anyone argue against Jaden Daniels being number 1?
I don't think you could. No, you can't. You can't. Also, Drake May was clearly concussed the other day. I couldn't believe they brought him back. James Foster with a super chat said, Loughran, you're in the Chiefsaholic documentary on Netflix. I heard. I still have to watch. I know it's only a couple seconds at the beginning, but that's pretty funny. Let's build a lineup.
All right.
And thanks as always. This is our last. You and I will be back here Monday for wild card. So I don't want to act like it's over, but you guys have been awesome all season, helping make this such a good show, a great show. Matt, I think you'd share the same sentiment as myself that we like doing this and every single Monday and every single Thursday. And these guys make it a whole lot better when we got them going in chat, leaving comments, all that stuff makes it worthwhile for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure coming into like the showdown when this started that everyone was as excited about this as we are, but we gave it a shot. And the reason we've been able to keep it going is because we have such a robust audience that shows up every single week for Thursdays, for Mondays, mornings, live before locks. Like, you guys are the reason the show is still around. I don't think coming in, this was like a surefire lock. We're going to have this every week, but you being here helps a lot. Thank you all.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Like Matt said, if we have shows that don't work, we cut the cord, and sometimes we cut it quick. So yeah. All right, let's build a lineup. And as always, guys, we had a question earlier about the Sims wanting to jump in. If you wanted to get the Sims for free, don't forget the $99 value core package. If you want it for free, actually, you'd be getting money if you signed up at like a BetMGM or a Bet365 or a FanDuel or something like that, because you get those bonus bet offers. Click that link where it says join any sportsbook, gets the Stokastic Sims free, and just follow those 4 steps. That is it. All you have to do, click claim offer on whatever one you want. And let's say you're in a non-legal state for betting. All of the pick'em sites are in there. They're included. Click that. Got to click claim offer. Once you do that, take a minute to instantly verify yourself, deposit. Usually the minimum deposit's $5 or $10, and place that on whatever bet you want. The moment that bet settles, take a screenshot of the settled bet on the app or on the site, and a screenshot of your welcome email. Just email it to us, support@stokastic.com, and let us know what sport you want. That's it. You want the Sims, you want the single lineup sim, all of our tools, you want to build better lineups, you can do it. And actually, essentially, get a bunch of bonus bets to do it on the other side. So if you signed up on 3 books, you get 3 months. You could do PGA, NBA, and NFL. It's crazy. Like, you're not limited to just one. Do as many as you want. Check it out. You ever have questions, hit us up. Matt, let's go single lineup sim for tonight's game. You and I will be back tonight as well for Monday Night Football live before lock. Who do you want to plug into the captain spot?
I want to try it out with one of the 49ers pass catchers. Let's try one out with Jennings.
Okay, sure. I like that. Go Jennings. I have a decent amount of Jennings at captain already. I think I got to throw Gibbs in here.
I like Gibbs. With his current, that was the first thing I did this morning when checking like this stuff, is like, all right, where's the prop market? And like, it's really eye-opening how high he is. He makes a lot of sense. I'll throw in Purdy just to complete the San Francisco side of this, stacking wise.
Purdy, okay. So how about Ricky Pearson?
Yeah, I mean, this is what kept happening to me. It's like you go down, you play 3 studs immediately, you save some value with Pearsall. You're already looking pretty good salary wise. The second you put in Laporte here, you're going to be able to play another stud. Maybe because we have Gibbs in there, it's not going to be like the highest one. But I think we throw in Laporte and see where we can go.
That gets us to Debo.
I'm fine with that.
So am I. Let's run it, and then we'll run it with one more variation and see what type of builds. Trying to see. So we have Jennings at captain. We have Gibbs, Purdy, Pearsall, Laporta. What would it just, what if we were to go, what if we were to pull Pearsall and Debo, put in Jamar Jefferson?
Okay.
Just go with me here. That gives us 11-1 to get you to St. Brown. But we don't have Goff, which makes it kind of tough.
Goff can be outscored by his players.
He can.
Let's test it. That's what we have this for.
Yeah, you're right. Try it. And then I have one more variation that I think will be very fun here.
I'm very interested to see stuff like this. This is like the stuff in your head. You're like, nah, this wouldn't be good. But why not just test it? That's why we have it.
Jordan, here's a crazy one. A 4-2 Niners Lions with Gibbs and Jefferson. So it's Jennings, Gibbs. We already have that. Purdy. Then Jamar Jefferson, Debo, and Kittle.
That is
what do you think about that, Matt?
All right. I'm just plugging it in myself to run on the back end along with
So
Jordan.
Jawan Jennings, Gibbs, Purdy. Samuel,
Ooh.
Jefferson, Kittle.
So it's double Detroit RB too, as your two
Yes,
Detroit
exactly.
guys.
Yep.
That is interesting. This is a funky one.
All right. Not bad.
Wow. No, that's pretty good. I'm surprised.
Let's build one more with Captain Kittle.
I think this Kittle captains are going to sim well.
Who do you want to go Gibbs here, or do you want to try a Gibbs fade?
Let's see what it looks like without him right now.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, these are good exercises to do because I mean, I don't think this is likely, but let's say maybe the props come down on Gibbs. If he projects poorly, you'll get an idea like where the lineups might be just by running some Gibbs this morning. All this context helps you.
Definitely. Then I think I'm going to throw St. Brown in there.
Okay. So we have St. Brown flex. We started with Kittle captain.
What do you think about like a St. Brown, Laporta, Goff?
I think that's going to be good.
Yeah.
I love Laporta today.
Me too. So we had St. Brown, Laporta, Goff. We have 5150 remaining. That's with Kittle at captain.
Okay.
Sorry,
This is
go ahead.
It's going to be hard to play one of the other studs without going all the way to the bottom in this lineup.
Yeah, you could do Brock Purdy, but you have to get a Jamar Jefferson in there or something.
Well, you end up kind of in no man's land. The second you put in even Pearsall, you're down in the Patrick Taylor range. You know what I mean?
Really? That doesn't get can we
Or I mean you take out Laporta.
What if we leave Laporta and then try what do we get to if we go with Juwan Jennings? 2,500.
I mean, there's guys down there. I kind of like them. I kind of like them because they all have volatility to them. It's not like you're taking on some wide receiver 4 who you know is going to have 5 snaps. When you're down in this range, there is some snap upside to Vaki. If you wanted to find like your way to Reynolds, there's some snap upside to him. Brock Wright plays 50% of the snaps in a lot of weeks. We already mentioned Jamar Jefferson. You can play these guys.
Throw Brock Wright in there.
Brock Wright.
I don't think this is going to do well. We're running this show late. Sorry, guys. It's our last one of the year. Oh, the good note to close it out on, Matt.
What did we get?
Minus 40.
We're just messing around. We're testing stuff. Don't play this one, obviously.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out all the time. We'll be back tonight. The next show you and I do together, barring any unforeseen scheduling changes, will be Wild Card Weekend, Matt, or Wild Card Monday.
Yeah, I might be traveling that day too. Not that it affects the show, but one of my buddies lives in North Carolina, is at Duke, and Kyle Dvorak lives down there. I've been talking to him about maybe meeting up.
Nice. Well, if not, I'll see you then.
Yeah.
If we do, if you do, I won't. We'll figure something else out. Appreciate you guys. Check out all Matt's stuff over on OddsShopper. Me as well. I got picks for today's game, and then picks for every game coming out tomorrow. And again, Portfolio EV, man. You want to take your betting into the future. It's the future of betting, except it's in the present, right? Like, why? Why would you not? Yeah, I got to try it out. Anyway, thanks, guys. We'll see you back here soon. Have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you 7:15 tonight. Peace.